This is the virtual happy hour experience with the Drunken Grape. I am your host, Rob, and today we have a brilliant guest on set. He is a motivational expert, an expert in marketing. He's also a key philanthropist, gives a lot back to the community too. And, you know, giving is a crucial part, especially this time of year. We are in the thick of the holiday season at the time of this recording. And this man is truly a marketing genius. You know, you come across a lot of people on social media that claim to be content creators or expert marketers. But if you look at their background, you got to question how or why. With him, you do not. He has an MBA from, I believe, the University of Phoenix, concentration in marketing. And this is a core passion of his. So high-level education meets high-level skill sets. It seldom gets better than that. Scott, how are you, buddy? Great to have you here on the show.
I'm all embarrassed here, man. Rob, hey, thank you. I am a big fan of you and the Drunken Grape, and I'm grateful to be here. Just what a glowing introduction. My mother would be proud.
Well, it's great to have you here too, brother. It's, you know, you do a lot of live streaming. You know, you have the experience with Russ Hedge. He's another brilliant communicator. You guys have real backgrounds. You're doing this the real way. You're building it organically and with real reach. And for those of you tuning in, make sure to share this video, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe to this channel. And when you do, hit the notification bell and select all so you don't miss any content. And with this, we have brilliant conversations, extraordinary drinks with extraordinary people. Scott fits the bill. Now, getting back to your background and the live shows, you talk a lot about marketing, and you're an Amazon Live expert as well. And you really study the thick and thin of technology, how to leverage it. But you're also really good at product marketing and design yourself. How did you get into all these things? Because you got a very interesting background in the world of business, and it's really adaptable to today's climate.
Yeah, thank you. I've been fortunate to have a varied background and to be able to have been involved in a number of different types of businesses, from financial services to high-tech manufacturing, low-tech manufacturing, agriculture, and now pushing around electrons here in the digital world. And I think just having a broad interest has been helpful for me. You know, is that they say the riches is in the niches, but in some cases, being a generalist is in itself a specialty. And so for me, that's probably been one of the keys that has helped me, is just having an interest in a lot of different things.
Yeah, and that really makes you a powerful player in today's world. If you think back, we were talking about Amazon and Bezos in the green room, and whether you like him or not, and I'm not a big fan of him personally, I'm certainly a big fan of what he has done business-wise. And you think about it, he started off, in the 90s, with this concept of going online with books in a bookstore, if you remember. And I think that concept struggled because it was far too narrow for the vision that he had. And what he really realized was, I could be the biggest online realtor on the planet. I could crush all the brick and mortar businesses. I could flatline inventory, supply chains, everything by going online, having warehouses, and then just containing shipping from there. And you think about it, what a brilliant model. And it worked to a charm.
Well, it's first of all, he proved that you can just set up an e-commerce website and do good, right? So a lot of people can go out and do this, right? I mean, that's really all he did. But realistically, when you look at the business, he's a logistics company. And I ran logistics over Hewlett Packard. I did that for 7 years, supply chain operations and focusing on logistics. And I look at what Amazon is, and Amazon is a logistics company. They know how to get things in, through, and out, right? The fundamental concept of logistics is receive, store, and deliver. And that's exactly what Amazon does. And so you start with books because they're non-perishable. and you start building the system. And he changed a lot of the fundamentals, because my undergraduate degree was in business and finance, and so I'm looking at these stocks when Amazon first went public, and they were losing money, and the stock is selling for hundreds of dollars. And Bezos would get up and say in the quarterly report, well, we lost money this quarter, and we have no plan as to when we will make money again, or when we'll be profitable. And the stock would go up. And it defied all standard evaluation for stock, where you're looking at the industry and the segment and the management team and the financials.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like their liquidity ratio and the debt to equity and the price to equity ratios. I remember learning this working in a brokerage firm for 9 months, cold calling for stockbrokers in my early 20s out of university. And I went back to do a minor in business. Yeah, it was a lousy gig, but I learned a lot. But I tell you, those are the key metrics, and those metrics didn't exist with Amazon and most of these companies. I mean, at the time they were popping up, Microsoft was already fully solvent in all these categories. Apple was in the midst of a resurrection, and it defied the traditional sense of things, much like the way cryptocurrencies and blockchains doing that now. I know we talked about that. I'm an investor into cryptocurrencies. I believe that is definitely going to be the future, because the technology behind blockchain is brilliant. It's peer-to-peer. You have proof of work or proof of stake. So you either own it or you have ownership in the work or in the actual apparatus of it. It's completely anonymous. It's democratic. It's definitely going to change monetary policy of how countries of the world do things. It's going to disrupt and finally put to an end the whole bullshit of the fiat currency system, which is actually the root cause of all the problems that we have with central banks. Central banks are at fault with all the disruption coming and through society now. And this is not conspiracy theory discussion. Yeah, but this is just facts. I mean, when you print away paper and there's nothing to back it, like there wasn't a gold standard, which, in my opinion, is still probably the safest and best way to move back to, is a physical monetary standard of vaulted gold and silver, because you can count on it. It's quantifiable and it's physical. Well,
there's some,
but at the same time,
there's
you can
tie in quantity, right? I mean, you can't just manufacture the gold. And, back earlier this year on the email newsletter that I send out, I had talked about inflation, and I'm thinking this must have been back probably in the first quarter, early second quarter, and I sent out a message and said, "Look, during the height of the lockdown of the pandemic, U.S. government puts out $2 trillion, which came out of nowhere, right? They just
punched it in and printed it out.
Oof, we have $2 trillion. Now, we didn't experience any inflationary pressure during that time because people weren't buying stuff. And so the U.S. savings rate also went up $1 trillion. That is $1 trillion of people not buying stuff. So a couple of things happen. One is that we get a flood of currency into the market, but it was offset by people not spending, right? So it just went into savings. So, and then there was less people buying stuff. And so the whole supply and demand curve, we didn't see the pressures, but now people have pent up demand, and we've got another $1 trillion coming in. So now you're looking at $3 trillion in the market plus another $1 trillion of savings. So in effect, we're looking at a $4 trillion change. So it's no wonder when I went to buy gas, it was almost $5 a gallon. So
that's insane. And we're experiencing the same thing here. Yeah,
this is
in
where
Canada, we're going. Yeah, in Canada, the same story. Switzerland, no inflation because they didn't print currency during the pandemic. They were smart. It's the Swiss. But Canada, the new nickname for Justin Trudeau was Just Inflation, because he actually gave a speech in the House of Commons, and the man foolishly put his foot in his mouth as usual. I mean, he printed and asked the Bank of Canada to print during the pandemic. In 2020, we printed 40% of all the currency we've ever had in existence in 2020.
Wow.
And he was complaining about the rising costs of home, gas. Well, I mean, when you're anti-oil and big gas to the point he is, and I mean, I understand clean technology and going to a greener future is the way to go. However, you do need to be somewhat self-sufficient as a nation too. And this was thrown out. And now we're seeing inflation of somewhere up towards 10, 15, up to 40% on fuel, beef. Some of these things have skyrocketed. But getting back to this and getting back to the leverage of what you're doing, talking about Amazon Live, this is now the time to jump into the virtual world, because you're never going to have a better golden ticket than the time of present, which is now.
That's right.
And talk to us a bit about that. Thanks, man. It's the virtual space. Virtual tastings.
You found a way to capitalize on what's out there. And I've also said that the pandemic just accelerated a lot of what was already happening. So people were already working from home. It was just their managers, the management teams, didn't trust people, so they wanted to see them. I call it the clipboard syndrome, right? So if Rob is in the office walking around with a clipboard, at least I see him and he must be busy, right? He's got a clipboard. But all you're really doing is just walking around, going from place to place, stealing people's time, right?
Makes me think of Yes, you're right. Makes me think of Lumberg and Office Space, the TPS reports. Do you remember that movie? It's hilarious. And on that note, the happy hour, ladies and gentlemen. I've got one of my favorite beers here. Scott, do you have anything in hand?
It is 8:30 in the morning here on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's not exactly the happy hour, but
so here at the happy hour, it's a Smith's tea. This is Silent Night. This is a special holiday blend. It's peppermint. It's licorice, blackberry, sarsaparilla, ginger, stevia, all in one cup. And here it is, the Global Virtual Tea Break, which happens the third Friday of every month. So let's go. So on Amazon, so the thing was, and we talked about this in the green room, right? You've got Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft. These are the key players in the world. And so the key is, how do you make money as an individual, as a solo entrepreneur, as a small business owner? How do you leverage what they've created? Because you can rail against them. You can say, oh, there's this monopoly or whatever, but my voice will not be heard. But what I can do is I can take care of my family. I can support my family. And to say, what's the opportunity that's out there? So you can broadcast on a Google platform on YouTube. You can have people can come and get the content right here. You can go into Amazon and sell products. So is that going to kill the local retailer? You need to adapt. And we've always needed to adapt. The thing was, back when I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s, it was supermarkets. Supermarkets were going to kill mom and pop corner stores. And there's more 7-Elevens and plaid pantries and convenience stores and gas stations and stuff than there ever was mom and pop stores. So they thrived because they adapted. And supermarkets didn't kill the mom and pop stores. In fact, most of those convenience stores are owned by families. And so will online shopping, will Amazon kill the retailer? Not if they adapt. And it now provides an opportunity for you to sell your products around the world easily that you didn't have before. So do you want to go out and build your own e-commerce website? Maybe it makes sense. Maybe you just want to leverage someone else's platform. They did all the work. You can just sell. And so to me, this is where the opportunity is. So when I had the opportunity to broadcast live into Amazon, and I was made aware of this by my friend Jim Fuse, and Jim had been doing it. He's been doing it now for a year and a half. I was a little behind him, so I got in about a year later, a little less than a year after he did. And it's been remarkable to be able to get online and share book interviews or product interviews, the manufacturer, the designer, the inventors of the products. And in an hour show, we can present that information from anywhere from 500 to 2,500 people. And some of the bigger name brand people out there are reaching even more. And so I'm thinking, this is a pretty good platform, and it allows me to take care of my family. So this is a great opportunity.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? You know, think about it. The happy hour, I'm drinking an Erdinger, but I'm going to tie how this all works. Erdinger is an excellent beer. It's from Erding, Germany, in Bavaria. Follows the Bavarian purity laws. The Germans are pretty strict and rigid, which makes it harder for them to create more stylistic styles of beer than the Belgians, because they have to adhere to things like water, hops, yeast, and malts. So the 4 ingredients they can work with, whereas the Belgians can add in other adjuncts. So this is the world's most popular wheat beer, or Weiss beers. These are brilliant. This is a dunkel, which means dark. So you've got a bit of, in the grain bill or the grist, it's over 50% wheat. It's about 50% wheat or greater. Then you got some pale malts. You definitely have caramel malts in here too. Gives it that toffee-like color. Mm-hmm. It definitely has toffee flavors. There's plum. There's banana. There's a bit of spicy, subtle spices to it. This is a brilliant holiday beer, and this is the oldest wheat beer of its style in the world, from 1866. Now, what these breweries did too, getting into the virtual world, they used to do all their business through traditional supply chains. You'd have reps centered in various sections throughout the world, and that's how they would move product. They would take orders and ship it from central locations or from warehouses from various breweries. If the brewery was just a central location, they'd have to ship from there. And, you know, something like this that produces over 1 million hectoliters of beer a year, sells over 1 million hectoliters of beer a year. The virtual world opened things up because the whole online ordering system took off. You know, you can just go online to these sites now and order direct. I mean, you weren't able to do this before. And this is exactly where traditional brick and mortar businesses have adapted to the 21st century and taken technology and continue to thrive. You use the Cornerstone store example because that's brilliant. You know, you think of the mom and pops, all the general stores. I'm a little bit younger than you. I grew up more in the 70s and 80s, but I still remember how there were the corner stores and they sort of transitioned out. And we kept corner stores. You're right. They just became the Quickies, Max Milks, the 7-Elevens, the Circle Ks. And then they moved into gas stations. They didn't disappear. They expanded. They rebranded. And the smart ones became big corporate brands from small mom and pop locations. They said, wait a second. If I just tighten up my systems like McDonald's and duplicate it over and over again, I can drop ship my store in every corner of every neighborhood in this world and thrive. I mean, you even go into Thailand, and I kid you not, I was in Patong or Pattaya, and the old saying is, good boys go to hell, bad boys go to Pattaya. I mean, they walk around with T-shirts like this, but the place is a gong show, and you can go into a 7-Eleven. They actually have 7-Elevens there and buy cans of things like Tiger beer at 5 a.m. as you're walking down the strip. But it gives you an example of how all these businesses thrived and adapted. And, you know, you look at what you're doing, and you're right. You're not going to remove Amazon by whining and crying. Personally, I think Bezos should be doing tons more to help humanity and a little less about space exploration and blowing up his ego right now. But you can't dismiss that he's the biggest kid on the block when it comes to the world of retail. And his system is here to stay. That is not going away. There's only going to be advances placed upon that system. So why wouldn't you, if you're an entrepreneur or somebody wants to have a side hustle, why wouldn't you want to step into Amazon Live or even LinkedIn Live or these other platforms, build up a YouTube channel and a podcast, such as what I'm doing here with the Virtual Happy Hour experience? Because ultimately they create other streams of income and they give you flexibility that we've never had before.
Yeah, so right now, I can't think of anything better than live video production to grow a business. If you're a small business freelance professional, solo entrepreneur. Right now, the live video is the way to do that. And you needed to look back, right? So where did we start? What were these mega companies? Back in 1980 when Apple went public, right?
Exactly.
There was a huge opportunity. I remember I was telling my dad, "Oh, there's this computer company and it's going public. You should invest in it." But hey, I was an 18-year-old kid just out of high school, going into college. What did I know? Would have changed my life. But so we had Apple. Then you've got Amazon and Google, right? And another key thing is to go, okay, so Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon. So what is going on? What's starting up today that we can look out into the future? So I think there's some opportunity there. But let's focus back on the live video. So you can connect to people globally. And that's one of the things that I've been focusing on is really how do you reach out to people globally and share your message? Because you have a network of people that want you to succeed. And thank you. Yeah. Business networking. I believe it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. We did a little bit of a screen share here. Yes. And this is exactly what a beautiful tie-in because, if you take a look at Scott, ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at Scott's profile here, it is exactly what he says he is. Obviously he is a business networking guru. He's a marketing guru. He really understands how to push and move product as well. This is definitely a gentleman you want to reach out to if you're struggling with these things. Here he is right on LinkedIn. He's building up quite a considerable following in a short period of time. And there's a reason for this is because his content's legitimate. And what you can do is you can connect with him right here on LinkedIn. And, LinkedIn is so adaptable now. Microsoft did a great job of advancing and modifying this platform too. I mean, you can just in message him, bing, hit message, and you can be right there to communicate with them. And, this is just says a lot about what you've done. And, this backs up everything that you have been talking about. You can see here, motivational listener talks about how you can come from a background that's highly introverted and still maximize your networking skills. Why your business network is your secret weapon to win. I'm trying to see if I can find the experience with you down here. I know you have that podcast.
Yeah. I should look under the recent activity. We've got the experience, and that's the experience live with Russ and Scott. And so we do that every Wednesday. That's 7 a.m. Pacific. So that's 10 a.m. on the East Coast. And Russ and I also have created a mastermind to help individuals master live broadcasting. So those of you that are thinking about it, have thought about it, maybe have tried it, but didn't really feel successful at it, I guarantee you that you have a remarkable network and there are people that want you to succeed, and hit the live button, go live. Doesn't matter what the platform is, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Twitch, or it doesn't matter. I mean, there are plenty of opportunities out there. You can build your audience. And so join the experience. Watch Russ and I on the experience. We're always welcome to guests. We're booked out usually a couple of months in advance, but also reach out to either Russ and I and talk about let's get you into the mastermind and start capitalizing on live video and how you can make money on that.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, you can see right here, he's got a lot of great points you just mentioned there. You can see Russ and Scott, The Experience Live. It's got the time, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. A lot of you, I can tell you this right now, in the Eastern Standard Time part of the world where I'm at, it's 10 a.m. You can take a coffee break right at that point in time, and you can find the time to engage in this. Even if you sit in for 15 minutes, it's valuable information. There's great insights. Russ and Scott are brilliant at communicating. They run a great show. I'm going to have in the show notes where they can find you and the details of the show, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be included. Scott, cheers to you, brother, for the happy hour. You know, cheers in the happy hour, because it is happy hour somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. It is 11 o'clock here. That is the start of some people's happy hour. You've been a tremendous guest. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to tune into the show. Make sure to subscribe. This is Scott and Rob from The Drunken Great. Wherever you are, have a splendid afternoon, a day.
Cheers.